Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ringside Cinema. I am Money Mike, and today we have to talk about something that is plaguing the WWE, and that is the Bloodline storyline. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I talked about this before in two different videos. I talked about before Cody Rhodes being dragged down by the Bloodline storyline, how he hasn't really had he's had feuds outside of this Bloodline storyline, but those have been the most compelling and interesting storylines outside of the Bloodline. Cody Rhodes being kind of forced into the Bloodline storyline where he's teaming with Roman Reigns. And it's like, why? Especially because hopefully with this Kevin Owens feud, and then from there, hopefully Randy Orton turns heel on Cody, and hopefully that's the WrestleMania match. And, all of his stuff outside the Bloodline is the most compelling stuff for Cody Rhodes, since he won the title at WrestleMania, and yet he's being forced and into the Bloodline storyline when he doesn't really need to. And then I talked about Jey Uso, and that's kind of why I'm making this video, is because Jey Uso lost the Intercontinental title last night because of the Bloodline storyline. And yes, listen, we're all excited for the Bloodline, the OG Bloodline reunion. Throw your ones in the air for the OG Bloodline, alright? We're waiting for Sami Zayn, for his involvement to get into this and everything. Roman embracing Sami, Roman going yeet. All of that is going to be great TV. We're going to be excited for it. But the way that WWE has gone about this, and really even with Cody Rhodes, I feel like the Bloodline storyline is kind of ruining WWE right now, just because they're forcing it to happen instead of letting things happen naturally. Like I said, I talked about this before in a different video. I said, Jey Uso's whole entire single run might be thrown away because of him going back to the Bloodline and doing the Bloodline reunion. And you can check that video out here, and you can go back on my channel, check out what I said about the whole Cody Rhodes situation. But I want to focus solely on what happened on Raw last night and what happened on SmackDown. So, let's start with SmackDown, alright? Because Solo's out there, he's cutting a promo, and then suddenly Jey Uso comes out there. Now, here's the entire thing. The Raw before that, we had Jimmy Uso go to Raw. He said, "Hey Jey, I want you to come help me and Roman. Let's get the original Bloodline back together." The whole thing, and I get it. The whole thing is supposed to be like this Roman's big redemption arc, right? So, Roman doesn't want Jey, and then kind of like Jimmy's like, "Hey, I'll go talk to him." And then Jey, rightfully so, by the way, and I said this in my original video about Jey Uso going back to the Bloodline. I said Jey has no reason to go back to Roman Reigns. He has no reason to align with Jimmy and reunite with his brother. He has no reason to. And so, essentially, he told Jimmy last week on Raw, he said, "Get out of my face." He did not want nothing to do with Jimmy. He wanted nothing to do with Roman. On SmackDown, for some whatever reason, which I get it, we needed that big story beat of Jey running into Roman, running into Jimmy, whatever, fine. But Jey, unprovoked, showing up, interrupting Solo, it just felt kind of forced. like, I get it. Jay's trying like, hey, Solo, you're ruining the family. You know, he just wants the family back together. And he questioned why he brought in the Tongas, why he brought in Jacob, and there was a reason they stayed away from Jacob, and that was all good. I actually liked the promo, but it just felt so forced where they're forcing Jay into it when he didn't need to. And that's kind of my point with all this. Is the Bloodline storyline right now is kind of being forced onto Cody Rhodes, onto Jey Uso. And again, I'm happy. Look, I'm going to be just like y'all. You know, throw the ones up in the air for the OG Bloodline at Survivor Series. I talked about this in my Survivor Series War Games predictions video. I said I was going to be curious how they were going to get Jay and Sammy involved. And, you know, it feels just kind of forced at this point. You know, the new Bloodline costing, you know, Jay the title to go back to Braun. Like, you know, like, why we gotta take the Intercontinental title off of Jay to do that, right? Because it feels like one of those things where, like in wrestling, where, oh, we gotta split a tag team up for someone to go on a solo run or to go on a singles run, right? Like, we saw what happened with the New Day, Kofi Kingston, Big E. Even though Big E technically he was drafted to Raw, but technically he was still part of the New Day. So there wasn't no really split, no breakup between the New Day. When Kofi won the title, he was still a part of the New Day, and they were a big part of why he won the championship. And I'm going to talk about the New Day in a video coming up. So hit that like and subscribe button right now if you want more wrestling content here at Ringside Cinema. But but this is like one of those tropes that, like, okay, because we need you involved in another storyline, we need you to drop the title, or because we need you to go on a main event run, we need you to turn on your partner, right? And it just feels kind of forced. Like, I would have liked to see more like character development with Jay kind of resisting or keep resisting help from, you know, not wanting to be involved in it. Jimmy, Roman trying to get involved, and then Sammy maybe being the voice of reason in all of this to try to get Jay to go, and then Sammy being the last piece of the puzzle. And, you know, like, for me, I feel like, you know, we're still building the crown jewel. So I feel like everything they did on Raw last night was kind of like rushed. I feel like we could have waited until after Crown Jewel to kind of get to this point. Like, I would have preferred there to be like a disqualification where the referee would have seen Jacob Fatu super kick Jey Uso. That way, Bron Breakker would have had a reason to be mad at the new Bloodline and mad at Jacob Fatu. And you can't tell me that when Bron Breakker and Jacob Fatu had that face-off, everybody wants to see that. I'm just saying, you could have kept teasing that. Like, Braun showing up to SmackDown because he's pissed at Solo, he's pissed at the Bloodline for costing him the chance at the Intercontinental Championship. Like, I felt like there was just more to it. You know, it's just one of those things where I feel like there's like way more to this whole storyline. You know, I don't want to go on too much. That's why I was like looking at my thing to see how long this video has been right now. But it's one of those things where it feels forced, where they're forcing Jay kind of back into the storyline instead of it happening naturally, which I feel like it would have been better. Like, I feel like maybe, you know, like the DX, kind of like the DX reunion in 2006, where you had Triple H getting beat up by the Spirit Squad, and then you had like the last member of the Spirit Squad to come out there, and Vince was like, hey, Nikki or whoever the last Spirit Squad member was, hey, come on out here, you know, join in on the beatdown. And then, like, he gets thrown out onto the stage by a returning Shawn Michaels. And I would have liked to have seen something like that with the Usos, where Jay would have turned down Roman and Jimmy's help and say, dude, I'm on Raw. I'm doing my own thing. I'm the Intercontinental Champion. Leave me alone. Leave me out of this. And then something happened on SmackDown where you get a very similar scenario where you have Jimmy and Roman getting beaten down, and then maybe there's one Bloodline member that still hasn't come out yet, and then that Bloodline member gets thrown out on the stage by Jey Uso, who makes the save. Like, to me, it feels, not only does it feel forced, but it felt rushed. Because we still got Crown Jewel coming up in like a week from Saturday. So I felt like they had more time to do this, and they had more time to develop the character growth of Roman Reigns, character growth of Jey Uso, kind of realizing, okay, you know what, I don't want to do this, but you know what, I'm going to do it for family. You know, Roman Reigns realizing, you know what, I don't want to work with Jay. I don't want to team with him, but I have to swallow my pride, and I want to work with him to fight off this new bloodline. There's just so much character growth I think that WWE missed out on with this whole storyline last night on Raw. I would have preferred it to be a disqualification finish, so that way, you know, the whole bloodline storyline kind of can evolve while Jay could have still been the champion. That's it. Let me know in the comments below. What did you guys think of Monday Night Raw? I thought the entire Raw episode was great. I thought it was like the way it was so chaotic in the beginning of Raw. It was so chaotic during the show. Like, you had the Final Testament beating up on R-Truth, and then you had the Wyatt Six come out, and it was crazy. It was a crazy episode of Raw, and it was a good Raw. I'm still getting used to these shows being 2 hours. I'm hoping it goes back to 3 hours, because I really feel like it really feels like we're missing something with that third hour. Maybe I'll get used to it, but who knows? Comment below. Let me know what you guys thought of Monday Night Raw. What do you guys think of the Bloodline storyline? And as always, I've been your host, Money Mike, and you've been watching Ringside Cinema.
Lights down, time to go. Cheers for heroes we know. Ringside forever bold. Wrestling never gets old.